Belogorivka, in one of the most significant setbacks for Russian forces since the start of the ongoing Russo-Ukrainian conflict. Ukrainian armed forces recently staged a successful defense against a large-scale assault near the settlement of Borova. This area, located in the Svatov-Kremenna direction, has witnessed intense fighting, with Ukrainian forces managing to halt and dismantle a major Russian offensive. The failed assault, which involved multiple battalions of Russian and Luhansk People's Republic troops, underscores the deepening issues within the Russian military command and the growing backlash from within Russia's nationalist circles. Videos of the failed assault have gone viral on social media, sparking an unprecedented wave of outrage even among pro-Russian factions, while the Ukrainian armed forces have lauded the defense as a critical victory. Nationalist voices in Russia are voicing their frustrations openly, criticizing the assault as a poorly planned operation that led to heavy casualties and significant equipment losses. The Borova defeat, along with the apparent involvement of North Korean forces alongside Russian troops, could mark a turning point in the conflict's scope and influence, drawing new global attention to the ongoing war. The Borova operation, launched by Russian forces with battalions from the LPR's 123rd Brigade, had the stated goal of advancing and reclaiming Ukrainian-controlled territory along the Svatov-Kremenna line. However, reports indicate that the attack was launched hastily, with little to no preparation or support for the advancing Russian units. Ukrainian sources confirm that the Russian columns consisted of various armored vehicles, including tanks, infantry fighting vehicles, and armored personnel carriers. The 123rd Brigade commander, known by the call sign Kashtan, reportedly ordered the assault without ensuring critical fire and air support. Ukrainian aerial reconnaissance identified the advancing columns early, allowing Ukrainian forces, particularly units of the 10th Separate Mountain Assault Brigade, to establish a robust defensive line. This failure of Russian command to anticipate Ukrainian defenses led to significant losses, as Ukrainian forces used drones, anti-tank systems, and artillery to dismantle the assault. According to Ukrainian military reports, the defenders destroyed approximately 15 Russian armored vehicles, including 6 tanks and 9 IFVs. During the battle, personnel losses were similarly devastating, with an estimated 19 Russian soldiers killed and another 23 wounded in the course of the assault. The sight of disabled tanks and scorched APCs scattered across the battlefield has become a stark symbol of Russia's mounting challenges on this front. Outcry from Russian Z channels, criticism of the high command. In a rare display of dissatisfaction, Russian Z channels, typically known for their strong support of the Russian military's actions, have openly condemned the assault's handling. These telegram channels, which often serve as hubs for Russian nationalist discourse, expressed outrage over the command's lack of preparation, accusing the Russian military leadership of sending soldiers to their deaths without adequate support. This sentiment represents a notable shift in tone, as these channels have traditionally rallied around the Russian military's efforts, even in challenging situations. One Telegram post captured the growing anger. This was an assault without fire support. They doomed the attack to failure. The post read, "We suffered huge losses in tanks, infantry fighting vehicles, and even more soldiers were left dead or wounded on the field." With no evacuation, many posts echoed these concerns, emphasizing the abandonment of wounded soldiers, some of whom reportedly waited days for medical assistance that never arrived. The lack of medical evacuation and logistical planning has only amplified frustrations. Reports indicate that it has been over 5 days since the failed assault, and several Russian wounded remain unaccounted for, as attempts to recover them have been hampered by Ukrainian control over the area. Some soldiers have reportedly succumbed to their injuries without receiving treatment, a tragedy that Russian critics argue could have been prevented with better planning and leadership. The Ukrainian armed forces, facing the Russian assault in Borova, showcased advanced tactics and operational readiness that allowed them to successfully counter the larger Russian force. The 10th Separate Mountain Assault Brigade, tasked with defending Borova, employed a combination of technology-driven reconnaissance, first-person-view drone strikes, and anti-tank missile systems to disrupt and dismantle the Russian advance. Using FPV drones equipped with explosives, Ukrainian forces targeted Russian armored vehicles early in the battle. Drone footage, now widely shared on social media, shows Ukrainian operators remotely guiding drones into Russian APCs, IFVs, and even tanks. causing substantial damage. As Russian infantry began evacuating disabled vehicles, Ukrainian drone operators deployed grenades into Russian troop clusters, inflicting further personnel losses. In addition to drone strikes, Ukrainian forces employed anti-tank guided missiles to target and destroy Russian armored vehicles, including several tanks at the head of the columns. Ukrainian artillery further compounded the Russian forces' difficulties by creating a continuous barrage that impeded any attempts to regroup or reorganize. Ukrainian reports estimate that the combined use of drones, ATGMs, and artillery allowed them to effectively neutralize the Russian assault in just a matter of hours, solidifying a decisive defensive victory. On a separate front, Ukrainian forces launched a successful operation to reclaim the settlement of Malaya Lakia, located in the Kharkiv-Kreminna region. This operation involved Ukrainian paratroopers supported by Marta armored fighting vehicles and tanks, deployed to dislodge entrenched Russian forces from the area. Russian troops in Malaya Lakia had reportedly converted a former women's prison facility into a makeshift base. But Ukrainian forces used a combination of drone surveillance and armored assaults to reclaim the settlement. The capture of Malaya Lakia provides Ukrainian forces with a strategic advantage, as it disrupts Russian supply lines and strengthens Ukraine's control over key regions in Kharkiv. This tactical victory highlights the adaptability and precision of Ukrainian paratroopers, who were able to clear the settlement with minimal losses. In an unexpected twist, footage has emerged showing North Korean soldiers reportedly training alongside Russian troops in the Kursk region. This development has sparked concern internationally, as North Korea's military involvement in Russia marks a major escalation in the conflict's international scope. The videos depict North Korean troops receiving mine explosive training from Russian instructors, raising questions about Pyongyang's potential role in the war. According to sources on the ground, one North Korean soldier reportedly died in a training mishap, with some Russian personnel expressing concern over coordination issues. The Koreans mistakenly fired on our positions, one Russian soldier claimed, adding that the presence of North Korean soldiers had created confusion and misunderstandings among Russian units. In his nightly address, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky addressed the issue, describing North Korean involvement as a new chapter of global instability. He called on Ukraine's allies to take immediate action, warning that the inclusion of North Korean forces could escalate the war beyond its current boundaries. The news of North Korean involvement has sent shockwaves throughout the international community. Analysts warn that North Korea's participation could signify an alliance between Pyongyang and Moscow that threatens to undermine regional stability and fuel further escalation. North Korea's military, known for its regimented training and discipline, could introduce new risks in terms of both combat strategy and potential human rights abuses on the battlefield. The failed assault near Borova has intensified existing discontent within Russia's military ranks. Russian nationalist groups, including prominent Telegram channels, have unleashed a torrent of criticism, blaming the high command for sacrificing soldiers without adequate planning or support. The disorganization and lack of fire support during the Borova assault have become rallying points for critics, who argue that Russian leadership is failing its soldiers on the front lines. For many Russian soldiers, the sense of abandonment and lack of logistical support is becoming an increasingly common experience. Reports indicate that soldiers on the Borova front received minimal artillery backup, and wounded personnel were left stranded without any evacuation protocol. These failings have stoked resentment not only among soldiers but also among their families and nationalist factions within Russia, who are demanding accountability from the Kremlin. The recent failures and international involvement suggest that the Russo-Ukrainian war may be entering a new phase, characterized by intensifying global stakes and shifting power dynamics. Ukraine's successful defense in Borova and the retaking of Malaya Lakia reflect the high level of preparation and morale within Ukrainian forces, which have managed to hold back and, in some cases, reverse Russian advances. Meanwhile, Russia's growing challenges, including internal criticism, tactical blunders, and logistical failures, hint at an erosion of both strategic control and troop morale. As the Russo-Ukrainian war continues to unfold, both sides face complex challenges, but the Ukrainian armed forces have demonstrated a tactical and strategic resilience that has significantly disrupted Russian plans. The failed Russian assault in Borova and the involvement of North Korean forces reflect the changing nature of this conflict. which now encompasses not only local and regional stakes but also significant international repercussions.